Homeownership used to be a default dream. Now, it's becoming a luxury. As per a recent study, only 36% of Gen Z believe that they can own a home in Canada. And honestly, the number that actually is able to buy a home is probably going to be far lower. We all know that the biggest problem with Canada is its supply. We aren't building enough homes, and when we do not build the right kind. There are several reports out there, including the one from CMHC, that we require 5.8 million new homes by 2030. And we are not even at pace to do half of that. What we are building is 500 square feet condos that are not something that people want to buy. These are being purpose built for rentals, not homeownership. And then comes the prefab home plan by Mark Carney, which is also pretty ridiculous because those are not the homes that are built for homeownership either. I, for one, would not want to buy a prefab home over like a custom built home or a builder built home that you get usually. So clearly they are passing it on as a solution. But again, these homes are geared towards investors who can then rent it out for a profit. And we all know that all these homes are being built in some city centers, very specific, and no fault of the builders. All the population is actually situated in all these city centers, and therefore all the homes are being built here because all the jobs are situated here. We need more people to spread out in places like Winnipeg, Saskatchewan. However, the weather is not conducive. There are not enough job opportunities. There's not enough innovation, which is exactly why most of the new immigrants are being attracted towards the urban centers, and these will become future homeowners and therefore densify the urban population even more and make the housing worse. Now, it's not just a supply issue. We also have a legit demand issue, which is being just covered up by higher immigration numbers, and therefore, we just have more demand over supply. However, if immigration numbers contract for even a couple of years, we are seeing right now, obviously it's also being clubbed by recession as well and job losses as well. Right now, homeownership for an average household earning under $100,000 is almost impossible because the housing is 8 to 10 times their income. Then we have stress tests, the down payment requirements, and the lending rules, which are getting tougher every single day. Now, immigrants just like me come here for a better quality of life, and most times we also want to own. Now, it might not make financial sense, but there is an emotional sense or a sense of making memories in your own home or retiring mortgage free, which is my reason to buy a home. However, in a few years of living here, in fact, for some people in only a few months of living here, they realize that home ownership will be very, very difficult. And the only way to home a decent home or buy like a half decent home in a place like Ontario, even if you buy in Kitchener where I live, you would have to make $130,000 to $150,000 of household, which is almost 2x the average household income in Canada. Forget about new immigrants, forget about everyone, forget about me, forget about, our generation. My son Arian is 7 months old right now, and let's say in 25 to 30 years, he wants to buy a home and settle down. I am pretty damn sure that there'll be no home to buy, and the home ownership would be very, very far. In fact, it will not even cross their mind. We are talking about the year 2050, 2055. AI would be at full force. Maybe the cars are flying, but we'll still need a place to live. We cannot live in AI homes. I don't see a version how that would happen. So we'll still need shelter, but I don't think people would be thinking of buying at that time. They'll be thinking of only renting. Nothing wrong with that even now, but that's where we are headed towards. Now, there are two things that I'm planning for Arian in order to set him up for some kind of success to start with. The first one is I'm investing for him starting today. I've opened an account which is in our name, obviously, because he's not 18 yet. It cannot be in Arian's name. So it's in our name, and we are putting $250 every single month into that account. We are investing that money into, VFE, which is S&P 500. And in 25, 30 years, when he's ready to buy a home, we're just going to gift that money to him. It'll be about $200,000, roughly at 8% compounding for 25 years. And then he can use that towards the down payment for a home. Or if he believes that down payment, buying a home does not make sense because it's a crazy high, it just doesn't make sense at that time, which is pretty possible, right? He could just double down on the investing, further into that, and he can invest that for another 25, 30 years. By the time he retires, he has a substantial amount of money that compensates for the rent that he'll have to pay on retirement. So that's what I'm doing. I'm investing early for him. And we all know that sooner we start investing, and I want to start in his first year, the sooner we start investing, compounding plays a much, much bigger role. And imagine doing $250 for the next 50, 60 years, and then, maxing out his TFSAs, doing RRSPs and doing all sorts of investments, doubling down on his investing when he's in a position to earn and invest. That's something that we'll have to teach them. But I'm making sure that he starts early, compounds as much as possible so that he's able to compensate for not buying a home ever and is able to pay the rent even when he retires after 60. The second thing that I've done is I've bought my primary home, and that primary home will be mortgage free in, let's say, 15 to 20 years. We'll live in that, continue living in that, for whenever we can, or we have to downsize. Then we'll give that home to Arian. Obviously he'll get that as inheritance, and he can either keep living in that home, because home, it's not a very old home, and homes can be lived in for over 100 years. We have so many homes here that are over 100 years, century homes. But it's up to him whether he wants to stay in that home, continue to raise his family there, or he just sells that home and takes the equity into his home that he really wants to buy. I'm not saying that buying a home is the end game, and it is definitely not for someone who doesn't plan on retiring in Canada. Like, for instance, for me, I would retire in Canada. My son is born here and he'll have friends here and he'll go to university, and at that point I don't think I can go or he can go to India, and therefore I might not want to stay away from him. Even though we are not even living in the same house, we'll still want to stay in the same city. That's what, at least sitting today, I really don't see myself living in a different country. So I'm not saying that buying a home is the end game, but all I'm saying is that it's only going to get difficult from here, not just for our generation, but also for our future generation, for our kids. And if you are someone who is looking to buy a home right now, I would encourage you to go to the description of this video, download my masterclass. It's completely free. It is 45 minutes of pure gold. It will give you an entire process. It will talk about different, incentives that you can use to buy your first home to ensure that, more money is put into your pocket. There's no obligation at all. If you want to book a call, you can do that. If not, just go through that mastermind and just buy a home for yourself, with other people, right? No obligation at all. But I hope you like this video. It was just a rant on something that is top of my mind since Arian was born. I don't think he'll be able to buy a home ever, and I just want to make sure that he is at least set up well. And I just gave you 2 points of how I am kind of trying to ensure that he has a home to raise his family when it gets to that point. That's all I have for today. मिलते हैं अगली वीडियो में, तब तक के लिए बाय बाय.